And we are live. Hey, how's it going? I got my buddy Thomas over here. How's it going, Thomas?
It's going really good.
We're finally doing this podcast, huh?
Finally. Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, we've had some interesting conversations throughout the years, and I said, why not? Why not put a mic?
I know every time we get into these conversations, it's why aren't we recording this right
Exactly.
now?
So, what really want to talk about in this podcast is just whatever we want to talk about. You know, conspiracy theories, history, AI. I mean, what are you thinking?
Absolutely. Wherever we want to start off, I'm good with. I've definitely, into the conspiracy theories, into the aliens, into the UFO subjects. The ancient Earth type stuff. Dead Sea Scrolls, anything. I'm good with anything. Specifically, though, aliens has been the hot subject that I've always wanted to, discuss on something like this, and there's been a lot of recent chatter, with the kind of like soft disclosure, I feel like, that's been happening in the government with a lot of government officials in the military coming forward talking about seeing, things that they can't explain, stuff that they say is, this is definitely a phenomenon, something that they can't really put their finger on. What It's not ours, it's nobody else's in the world. They just won't kind of say this is aliens, at least not yet. That's like one of the things they're staying far away from. Like, we just don't know.
Why do you think that is? Like, why can't the government just be like, you know what, there's aliens, fuck it, you know?
Well, there's a lot of, I think, theories regarding why they won't come out and say. I think the biggest thing is it'll just create a lot of questions about national security. We won't know what are these, what are the aliens' capabilities, what do we. I think that people will naturally gravitate towards thinking that we've known this for some time. I think that that will, once they come out and say it is aliens, we won't be able to deny that, hey, we've actually known this for a long time, and I've had some contact with and communication with these beings. I think it could go all the way back to very ancient times, not to become ancient alien theorist here.
But,
But
that's my favorite. I love that.
yeah.
I
I
love that
mean,
shit.
and me too. It's one of those things that I think that they just won't be able to escape answering certain questions they don't want us to necessarily know yet. If you're gonna say there's aliens, we're gonna want to know everything, and they can't tell us everything.
See, my thing with that, with the UFOs is the visual. You have cameras recording to the sky, but clear camera. As soon as a UFO passes by, whoop, megapixels are like, nope, that ain't shit.
Yeah.
And that to me has always been alarming because I never understood why we can't get a clear picture of something. Did you hear about when the Navy a couple years ago saw the aerial phenomenal aircraft?
There's like a couple videos. There's like the gimbal video and the go fast are the specific ones I think that they've kind of highlighted the last few years.
So yeah, I mean, I saw that video and it was pretty insane.
The Tic Tac one, or the one where it's like flying and it's like on a FLIR
It's
camera?
on a FLIR.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's going
starts
diagonal.
rotating.
Yeah, it starts
Yeah.
rotating, but the visual is not as clear.
Yeah, and that's what I can't remember the name of the, was it like Colonel Favor or something like that.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, he was on, and he's been on other podcasts, and talked about it. He's got glasses, short hair.
Yeah.
cropped, yeah. He's talked about it, and he says the exact same thing. The video we have that's available to the public is like not the actual video. It's much more clear from what the military had originally.
Okay.
So I don't know how the data gets skewed from coming from the military cameras to a YouTube video. I'm sure there's some oversight. We can't show you. There's probably some committee, not committee, but somebody somewhere is like, we're definitely not going to let you have the real video.
Well, and the problem with that is they show it on CNN, but then the Pentagon has an announcement that the Pentagon says right here, it says it is not found in any evidence of alien extraterrestrial, but is developing a UFO detection. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah,
Like it's saying,
again.
yeah, you guys did see it, but
Yeah, again, we're not saying it's aliens, but it's probably aliens,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That's what I'm saying. They're not going to come out and just say it, you know. They, even though it's basically now I feel like confirmed because with the testimony of David Grush and there's a couple other. There's like I think a Carl Neal, a colonel, who basically said we are not alone. I mean, that's not confirmation right there. I don't know what is. You know, David Grush goes on to talk about. He doesn't give specific names, but he was I think, a colonel as well in the intelligence community or within the government. That he's was put in charge of this UAP program, or not, or kind of a. Sorry, I'm going on, but there's a project that was in charge of investigating the UAP phenomenon, so the unidentified aerial phenomenons. And he just goes on to say that it's definitely from the interviews he's had, it's like an undeniable fact
right.
that these craft exist. There's alien traffic retrieval programs where they're recovering these crashed objects, trying to engineer the technology, and it's just very much covered up through private industry. So like actual military isn't actually working on it. It's a private industry.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest proof is Bob Lazar, right? That has to be
It's got to be somewhere in there, I feel like, as proof. People just don't want to accept Bob Lazar's testimonies as much because when he was in that field of research and study, we didn't have like huge internet access. The internet runs everything now. You know, there's
This was in the 70s.
it was
correct?
the late 80s.
Late 80s,
Late
okay.
80s. So Bob Lazar worked for Los Alamos Labs, I believe it was, and he put out like a letter, or he received a letter to work on this project, and they ended up like wiping clean all of his records. And again, so back then it was like file cabinets and everything, you know.
Right.
So that's how you kept your records. So it was very easy for us for the government to just go in and like, oh, we don't want this person, you know, we don't want this person's to have any type of to have any
Association with us. Yeah.
like, or just that we don't want to be able to let this person prove any of the information that they're saying. So we're gonna make sure that they're as not credible. You know, they want to make sure that they're not a credible source of information.
He did say the engineering that was involved in those projects was out of this world.
Definitely.
And he said, I mean, how smart do you have to fucking be to be like, yeah, try to fix a spacecraft and tell me the engineering mechanics to it.
Yeah, and he even says like he feels like he was kind of pulled out of left field for this, that they were at kind of a loss. He says for trying to make headway on the project. So they think that they were bringing in anybody that they could. You know, he was just somebody out of left field that they thought maybe he is a fresh set of eyes, fresh brain on this thing that we can hopefully maybe he'll have some insight or just make some type of breakthrough. Which they say they made some progress. They think they figured out how some things maybe worked. It's like very, like the way he described it was dropping off something like a motorcycle in the wagon train days. Like you could eventually figure out how to turn it on, how to drive it, but you would never be able to manufacture one back then.
Yeah.
And same with this type of technology today. We'll never be able to manufacture it today.
Yeah, or ever.
Possibly ever.
Yeah.
You know, and again, more information that he says is, or his theory on it is that this could be technology that we just won't ever have access to simply because we don't have the type of resources that this civilization may have had in their star system. Maybe because the fuel source that this vehicle runs on is the element 115. And if you've listened to the videos at all, they go into detail a little bit about element 115 and what its properties are. But that this substance might be naturally occurring. And so that maybe this is something that they had immediate access to as a civilization.
Can you imagine the feeling of being erased by the government? I mean, it was up to a point that the government even had him to get divorced because.
Right.
Did you read about that?
Yeah, because he
They
he
kind
couldn't
of
tell his
framed him.
wife what was going on.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah, and so she thought, what he was doing was having an affair.
right
He would be gone at these weird hours of the night, and it could be at any
by
time.
force too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He had to be
yeah.
at the airport at this time, and all he could tell his wife was like, "Yeah, this is for work." Which is what is any wife gonna think? It's like when you can't tell them about things like this. Their minds will go wild. I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. I mean, I just tell my wife, "Hey, I'm going to McDonald's." She just gives me that glare. You better bring that 4-piece back.
Yeah, I
But
want a receipt.
I want a receipt to see this. But how do you bring a receipt? Yeah, we're doing alien aircraft, but I don't know how to tell you this.
Yeah, how are you gonna prove it? You
How
can't prove that.
Yeah, you can't really prove that, of course. But also, alien aircraft. When I think about that, I think like the journey, right? The journey from, I mean, you're talking about light years away from Earth, right? So to have, I mean, I think 1 light year is 6 trillion miles.
And that's how much. That's how long it.
And
And you have to imagine, that's how long it takes light to travel.
yes, but
To get to you, it takes 1 year.
So-
for light to travel 6 trillion miles.
so back in the day, in the ancient times, I mean, you can't deny the monuments, the Egyptian pyramids, so forth. I mean, the dynamic of it was just so accurate, right? To be like, okay, we did our job, we're leaving, we'll be back, and I mean, light years away, come back, we would never know. They're like back, be like, oh, where the fuck's everybody at?
Yeah.
So by that, I mean, how can you prove that there's aliens? That's the main question to me. How can you prove there's aliens? It's kind of like throwing a golf ball in the middle of the ocean, and then say, well, can we find this golf ball?
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be proved by just random Joe Schmo. So the evidence is far and few between. You're not gonna just the people say is like, oh, if aliens exist, then why don't they just land on the White House lawn,
Yeah.
or something like that? It's not gonna happen like that. It would have to be the government finally admitting in some sense or in some way, that this has been going on, which again they kind of have, and I feel like as much as they have admitted to already, it's only a matter of time before full disclosure happens. And that's going to have to be the proof outside of, some type of major event happening where aliens just like make themselves known.
Well,
Because their technology, dude, it's like so far ahead. Like if they want, they're only gonna they're only gonna show themselves if they want to be shown, unless I don't think that maybe that's entirely true. Like I said, I
No,
think
you're
I don't
absolutely right
think that
about
these
that.
creatures are infallible. I don't think
Yeah.
aliens don't make mistakes. Again, I do think that there is some truth to this alien crash retrieval program. Sometimes their shit crashes.
But I think now when you talk about extraterrestrials, it's more of a time than anything else. You're against time. You're not against trying to figure out if there is extraterrestrials or not, because it's a matter of time, I should say.
Yeah.
But a lot of people still, I mean, brilliant people like Tyson Degassi, you know who that is? He's a physicist and he's a brilliant guy, and he actually says that there's no such thing because you can't prove it. You have these blurry ass videos that you get, and that's about it. And he kind of has a point there that you can't prove that there's extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
So it leaves you in a dilemma of what do you want to believe? Do you believe now? What, like for instance, in religion, where does extraterrestrials fall into religion now?
Yeah. Great question, and another good subject to cover. I think that because I am somewhat religious, I am quite not even just somewhat. I do believe that there is definitely a God. So where does it all fall into? I don't know, and I do think that there's some connection though.
Right.
between spirituality, God, and aliens and humans, and
Mm-hmm.
it's, basically all life in the universe. I think it is all connected. How I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what alien. I mean, it would be very, and that would be another thing, and maybe that's another reason why they don't talk about it more. Is like aliens would have a much better understanding, I think, of spirituality and God with the technology that they've been able to possess. You know, the time that they've had in this universe to develop a technology to actually really research spirituality in an even deeper way through their science. You know, which I think eventually science will be able to kind of prove some things that we've already talked about. There's some things I feel like that are kind of already, you know, kind of prove some spirituality aspects.
Like
Maybe
what?
not religion, but well, there was an interesting study done. I don't know by who. I can't remember by who. But if you Google it, there's a guy who would measure or weigh people's bodies. I don't know if you saw that, ever saw
No.
that before. But he would weigh their bodies at the point of death. So there was and and his scales were very sensitive. So at the very moment of death, there was like a difference in their weight by like 26 grams
Wow.
at the moment of death.
Mm-hmm.
So what that is, I mean, who knows what that is? I mean, I still think that is a stretch to say, oh, that's a spirit leaving the body, you know. That's a stretch to say, you know,
What
of
do you
course,
think
but
it's your atoms and your molecules in your body?
like rearranging in some way,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean, I think some people have said that. So
Because that.
what it could be is that there's an energy loss
Mm-hmm.
through death, and the energy does have mass. Okay, so if you have a spring, yeah, and you coiled the spring, it weighs differently than it not being coiled. So there could be some actual evidence to say that that's just your brain turning off, basically, because your brain is an
Right.
all electric, you know, conductor,
And
basically.
and atoms, I don't think they die. These molecules, I
Yeah.
feel like they shift, right? So, like for
Mm-hmm.
instance, the universe is made out of energy, dark matter. Nobody even knows what dark matter really is, but it's made out of energy, and these energies are from these atoms that blow up from dead stars. So those same atoms, I feel that we have in our own body, right? If I'm not mistakenly, I
Yeah,
feel like
that's
we
what they
have
say.
the same atoms.
Yeah, I
They're,
think there's a Carl Sagan quote that
yeah,
says we're
they're the
made from
protons, the
star
neutrons,
stuff.
and the electrons that we have in our body system, and those are the same. Um, those are the same atoms that come out of dying stars, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
they're floating all over this universe with a
Yeah,
massive energy that I mean
yeah.
nobody can comprehend.
Which you know, to me, I feel like is a very like way to connect myself, you know, to the
Right.
universe. Way
So
we can all
so
connect all of
there's a
ourselves.
connection
You know?
there. There's
Yeah.
there now when you talk about spirituality and religion, do you feel like you have to look at the universe?
Yes, I do think that you have to look at the universe. I do think because the universe is so massive. You know, I feel like it's very self-centered to think that we're the biggest thing there, you know. Um, but I do think that there is a level of importance that we are here, a level of significance that we are here.
Right.
I don't think that it's like entirely by chance.
No, I don't think so. It's there is no chance in hell that, in my opinion, I should say, we have eyes, we have hands, we have functional body parts. Each part has a purpose, right? It's not a mistake that you have eyes so you can eat, and you have an
Yeah.
ass to digest. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There's no, yeah, you have ears, you have two
Right,
eyes, you have.
right.
Yeah. So that shit. I mean, we could have all we know. We could have like an elbow out of our chest and one eye in the back, but that would be
Right.
pointless, right?
Yeah, I think evolution and
Evolution got it right. I mean, how long do you
yeah.
think it got it right? Because supposedly,
How long did it take? Yeah, a long
evolution.
time.
How long do you think
But,
evolution has been around?
Um, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think that there's evidence to support evolution, but for it to say that that's like we can track it from such and such time to now, well, we can't. You know,
I
we can't.
agree.
We can't track it from a single-celled organism to a human being.
Right.
So there's fossil record, and I think that that's important. I don't know. You know, human history is so foggy,
So, oh yeah.
so hard to like pinpoint, and I feel like the science feels like they get a lot right, and maybe they do get some right. I don't think they definitely don't know the whole picture. Nobody does, but
Well, I mean, planet Earth has been around for about, they say 13 billion years,
Like
right?
13.7
Yeah.
billion years.
13
Yeah.
some billion years. And civilization, you like, because you know me, I love history.
Yeah.
You're missing about 80% of history that we have no idea what happened because, I mean,
Yeah.
they didn't know how to write, they didn't know how to draw. I mean,
And honestly, I feel like even a much smaller percentage, because I feel like recorded history is the only thing we can really say.
Exactly.
This stuff most likely happened, kind of thing, and
well, and you go in the ancient times, all the tablets that, the drawings and so forth. And ironically, a lot of the tablets have, alien, extraterrestrial,
yeah,
pictures.
which
I
is
mean,
very, a very good point. Civilizations across the world, at times when they had no communication with each other,
yeah.
they had no
Well,
interaction of
you
any
went from
kind.
grunting, right, like, to having an actual conversation now, millions and millions of
Yeah.
years, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's a very, very weird thing, I think,
Yeah.
that we don't have a full understanding of.
And I think we'll
It
never will.
never will,
I
never
mean,
will, man. I feel like you'd have to have a time machine that could actually take you back in time, and you could actually sit and really analyze and whatnot. And who
yeah.
knows? There's a good theory out there to say that, like, maybe that's what aliens are people that are so far away in the universe. There's another Earth a billion light years this way that
Oh,
has a copy of
for
me, a
sure.
copy of you, and that's happening right now, and it's happened in other places, and their aliens could just be, an evolution of what we were,
Right.
and they just come here to actually see what happened. How did we even become
Well,
what
do you know
we
who
are?
Brian Cox is? Have you ever heard of? He's a physician. Oh,
Um,
sorry, a
oh,
physicist.
oh, a physicist?
Yeah,
Yeah,
physicist.
is he a British dude?
Yeah, he's he's
Yeah.
actually in a rock band, and then
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and then he got his
I think
doctorate
I've
degree in Cambridge.
I think I've seen
Yeah. Well,
seen him before on
he
some stuff. Yeah.
he says, I heard on this video that he says each galaxy, there's a billion galaxies in the universe, and inside each galaxy is a billion Milky Ways.
Or there's a inside each so inside each universe
They're inside
a
of each
billion other
universe.
galaxies, a
Now,
billion more Milky
I
Ways.
mean,
Yeah.
that's way more than I can comprehend.
Right.
But how do you think they get that? Like how?
I think mathematical probability or something like that is probably. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
It's because just the sheer size, of our universe already kind of says, the probability that we're the only ones, is so infinitesimally small.
You know what I think, and this is just my opinion. I feel like the universe is just an atom, and there's billions of other universes around.
Yeah. I
Billions
think
of
they call
atoms.
yeah. There's like
It's like
kind
a
of
bubble
a bubble
inside.
bath theory.
Yeah, like a
I've
bubble
heard of
bath
that.
theory.
I've heard of that, and where it's like,
Because the mass energy that we have in this universe, like, you can't deny.
yeah,
And so that's contagious. It's like kind of like the black hole. You know how the black hole sucks you in
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the strong energy, and then the energy is so strong that it kind of fucks with your time. The time is different in the black hole than it would be in what, like me
Right.
and you right now, right?
right. The closer you get to it,
The closer
the
you get
more
to
it
it.
becomes distorted.
So why do you think that is?
Big mystery. I
Big
don't know.
mystery, yeah.
That's a huge mystery. So gravity and time are connected, as proven by Einstein theories, and like just through our experiments with the here on Earth and the International Space Station, the ISS, that there's a time difference up there as opposed to here down on Earth because they're farther away from the influence of the gravity of the Earth. It's by like milliseconds or something like that.
Wow.
But there's a difference between how time passes here as opposed to time passing on the ISS. So the closer you get to a black hole, the more that becomes distorted. So, and also the way that we move through space. So the closer you get to like the speed of light, the slower time becomes. So let's imagine that for a second that you were that you had that you were a photon and you were conscious and you were traveling. So you're traveling from a star a billion light years away or something like that, and you're traveling to Earth. So it takes 1 billion years for your light to reach Earth and for us to see
Yes.
your light reaching Earth, right? So, but to you, it's instant. Why? I don't know. It like also it's a distortion of how you perceive time.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Just, I mean, right now I'm just trying to process it. You
Yeah,
know, you
it's
can't.
so weird.
It's
It's
so
so weird. How
weird.
can you even imagine?
It's kind of like
I
the,
think there's like something about that in Interstellar because they get close in that
Mhm.
movie Interstellar. They get close to a black hole and
Right.
it like 20 years pass on Earth. He comes back and it's like, or even longer, like 80 years pass because his kids have like died of old age and
Right.
stuff like that, uh, and he still looks the same as when he left. It's a crazy, crazy thing. Yeah, how gravity works, how gravity affects time and space,
That is
and that's going to be the key too to how we travel the stars. You know, is if we can harness that somehow and be able to use gravity to bend space. And that's what we think, and that's what a lot of the people who've actually worked on these projects with like UFOs, that's what they think that they're doing,
Mhm.
is that they're bending space. And just basically
Like
so you've heard of like how if you can bend space, you can kind of defy the laws of physics of like, hey, you can't travel faster than speed of light.
so you have to look for portals, pretty much.
Yeah, a wormhole
A
or something. You basically
wormhole.
have to
Yeah.
create a wormhole. Is like what they think that these craft are doing.
I did see this theory. Um, it was kind of like a piece of paper, right? And from one end of the paper to the other, you'd have to figure out how you can just go through it without in a certain amount of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they do is they fold
They
the
fold the
paper
paper,
and
yeah.
cut a hole through it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying it takes, I don't know, 1 second from one end to the other, it takes less than
Yeah, it's almost it's like instantly.
instantly.
Yeah.
And kind of like that's how they would have to figure out a way, because I mean, like I said, I mean, 600 million miles, trillion miles.
Yeah, I think
It's just impossible. It's
Yeah,
just,
and I do think it's going to be possible eventually, and that's like
oh,
another.
you think it will be
Oh yeah, I think that it will
by
be
man?
by man. Yeah, I think that that will be something in the future. You know, if we're around, if we manage to make that.
I always
make it
thought
to that.
AI would be the one.
Well, I mean, it could be. AI could develop it for man. You know, eventually, I feel like AI is going to be so well created by man. At some point, it'll start being able to create newer versions of itself. Like what, this is like a subject on Joe Rogan's podcast all the time whenever I'm listening to it. And I do think that that's true. I think that eventually will create a version of AI that'll be able to create better versions of itself, also being able to develop technology independently of man's, programming it. And the more that information that they feed it, the more that it's going to be able to do those things and be able to create just that better. It's like, oh, hey, AI, I want you to develop a more convenient or more efficient,
Advanced.
yeah, more efficient way of travel.
Right.
And eventually, it's just going to start
Oh man.
just instantaneous.
Just the thought
It's
of
like
that scares
art,
the shit
yeah.
out of me,
It's
to be
like
honest
AI,
with you.
yeah, it's like AI art. The art that AI can generate now is insane. The quality, and it's basically just because we fed it so many images.
Well,
It's able to just.
problem with AI
Mhm.
is, to me, I mean, I'll
Mhm.
tell you what I feel about AI
Mhm.
because like I said, it scares the shit out of me. Once AI starts knowing how to reproduce itself, because I mean, it's gonna be super smart, right? You're gonna have,
Yeah.
you probably have a neural link in every AI system.
Yeah, it'll be.
Once they learn how
Mhm.
how to create its own and start building and building and building, I feel like that will be the instinct of mankind. Mankind will not exist anymore because AI will not need us, right? So here's the scary part. So I feel like,
Hopefully, we create some kind of failsafe that it
but
doesn't
if,
happen.
but if you're
you know?
teaching an AI everything you don't think it would be able to go around those loops? Because it's kind of like already saying, well, I don't really need you. I got my own intelligence.
Right.
What do you think about that?
I don't
Does-
think
does it
that.
scare
I don't
you?
think a little bit. There's definitely a fear I have of AI in a sense that it's going to uh, make a lot of things that humans do not necessary.
Mhm.
So there's programs now that can create music, and me as a musician, I am very like blown away just
Mhm.
by the quality of music that AI can generate right now in its very infantile state that AI is in, and what it can do is mind blowing.
Right. Man, that's crazy. I mean, just to think about it too is just it's pretty insane. Also, I've read that they have like an artificial skin for AI now.
Oh,
That is so fucked up because what?
what's that?
So they I don't know how they do the skin part, right? I think they take it out of like a pig, right? And they make it into like really thin human skin, and they put it in an AI and give it an actual face feature
Oh,
on the
whoa.
AI, right?
So is it like robotics with the skin
It's
overlaid
robotics
over
with
the
the
top of
skin, and
that?
it has like hair particles. It has, I
Oh,
mean, it has nails,
oh, weird.
and I think now you're going into like
They're just,
biology. From
yeah,
I wonder if they don't
literally
say how
trying to,
they do it,
yeah, that's
but they're
literally trying to create the Terminator.
if you, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of people like artificial organs. To me, scares the shit out of me because somebody can need artificial organs, right? And they say, "Oh, I need a heart transplant. I'm gonna get an artificial heart." Okay. Oh, now I need an artificial liver. I need so forth. So you die, but yet your body is all AI, and you're walking around like you're normal. And maybe people won't even know you've already died because you have no conscience. It's
Yeah.
all AI taking over.
That's true. I think that that's a possibility as well, just because they'll be able to kind of imprint your personality into a
Yeah.
computer. So it's going to be difficult to tell the difference. I don't think that it'll be entirely impossible to tell the difference, but it'll
Isn't
probably
that
be
scary
pretty
though?
close.
You're
Yeah.
alive, but
I
you're
mean,
really dead.
well, again, AI is so young, and yet we see these deep fake videos today that are so realistic. You can kind of tell, that this is AI generated, but it's like very difficult whenever you hear like a random video on YouTube and you hear somebody's voice like Donald Trump or Joe Rogan or Biden, and you hear their voice over the video. It's kind of weird,
Right. Yes.
there's an inflection here or there that you like. Well, that's definitely sounds kind of iffy, and you can tell it's an AI generated video, but it's very like it sounds like them. It sounds really close to them. So just imagine, yeah, 50 years from now.
50.
Yeah.
And can you imagine like 50,000 years from now?
Oh my gosh.
People, I feel like 50,000 years from now. I mean, I do believe there's still gonna be mankind.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think that we're
very
gonna be different. Though.
robotic though,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think we're
we'll
gonna be different.
We're gonna be very different. But I feel like AI is gonna be our existence from the universe. Like, let's say 2 million years from now, there's no more humans, right?
Yeah.
AI is gonna be running all over. I mean, AI can. I don't know how it will work
Yeah.
with dark energy,
Hmm.
but I'm sure AI. They don't need oxygen. They don't have any atoms or anything like that. So they will be roaming around the universe. And I feel like if any extraterrestrial comes across an AI, they will know humans because of them, because of maybe the reflection.
Maybe so. Maybe
They'll be like,
like
oh,
it's just identifiable just based on how we designed it.
just how we designed it, yeah.
Mhm.
And they will keep on going with that. And what's crazy about that is, I believe, is right now we fight over wars over land.
Hmm.
What about in a couple million years we're fighting wars over planets? And it's not
Yeah.
us, it's the AIs going
Mhm.
against.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
That's probably true. It's probably going to be something. I don't think war is ever going to go away entirely. I think that there's some type of conflict going on right now between some alien civilizations somewhere.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
definitely. I don't. I think that there's probably war, like maybe not amongst specific races like themselves. Like maybe they're not fighting. Maybe there's not as much infighting.
Maybe
with
they're
certain
fighting
races,
resources?
but they're probably wanting to get resources, and that's probably part of why they fight or why they want to conquer if they are that type of alien race. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear you hear theories all the time, and you don't know if it's a crackpot theory or if it's not. Maybe it's true. I don't know if you've heard like there's the Greys are a specific
What's the
alien.
Greys? What's the Greys?
The Greys are the big head, almond-shaped eyes,
Oh, right, yeah.
aliens. Kind of like the classic depiction of an alien.
There's so many different ones, though.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different ones that you hear about. So there's also like the reptilians, and they're like more lizard featured or something like that. And
Predator.
they're much more of a hostile kind of alien race
What
from
if,
people's descriptions.
ETs look like us? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I think that there's
We're just a replica of them?
well, we could be, or maybe evolution goes along a very specific line. And so we don't know if an alien race is going to look similar to us or if it's going to look totally different. My opinion is it's going to look similar. It's going to have, you know, 2 arms, 2 legs, hands, eyes, a mouth, a nose, ears. I think it's going to have all of those things. I think that evolution follows kind of a linear line rather than a extremely, like obviously evolution branches heavily, but I think that our ability to transcend certain stages in our civilization where we actually become very aware and we become very much being able to create what we have created, what the human civilization has become, needs very specific things like hands, you know, opposable thumb to use tools, things like that. And I think that that's going to be true kind of universally.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's like I said, we use it as human beings. We use our hands, feet, legs. We have a heart.
Yeah.
So everything
You
is
need
purpose. You
eyes,
need
you
eyes.
know.
So of course, aliens will definitely need that as well.
Yeah.
And if not more. Yeah.
Have you heard of the theory with grays too? Like that grays might be like an artificial like a bioengineered species.
Dude, now we're getting. Oh man, don't get me into that rabbit hole now.
Uh,
Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the way that people described grays, you know, people who claim to have like had some type of interaction, say that grays have a very weird kind of biology. So their organs, it's kind of like one big organ inside their body.
Wow.
So it's like the heart and everything is like, and the stomach and things like that. It's all kind of just connected as one big organ. And there's no like reproductive organs. There's none of that. So like so the theory is either these are artificial, like biologically created, or they're test tube creature. So like that's a thing that in the future we might be like the way that we get offspring might not be through sex. It might be through growing them in a lab tube or something like that.
Dude, you're just blowing my mind right now. So now I never really thought of extraterrestrial races, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a race, they created their own race as well, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
That's like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for aliens to experiment on aliens, you know, they're like, these humans, I can't get nothing out of these guys, so I'm going to end up doing it. Like, just to estimate guess in your belief, how many races do you think there is aliens? How many races?
In the Milky Way,
In our Milky Way, or?
yeah, and I've heard like some people talk about it, and it seems kind of like it's so many things have to line up, okay, for life to actually occur. So, I think that the number's not just one. I think it's more than one, but I don't think it's a huge number either.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's probably between like 1 and 50.
Wow. Yeah. I can see that.
How many exactly? I don't know. I think it's definitely more than 10, let's say, but probably, yeah, less than 50.
Well, from what people have reported, the aliens they've seen, the extraterrestrials, they've never looked the same, or never are the same.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I wonder if they have some that are smarter than others. You know, maybe one race thinks they're more superior than the others, and that's where war starts. Do you
Probably.
believe in that?
Probably. Well, we are definitely not on the same timeline as these creatures, whatever
No.
they are that are visiting. You know, if the technology is what it appears to be, it's thousands, if not millions, of years
Right.
ahead of ours. You know, so I don't think that would be the case either for another civilization to another. You know, so they're probably all over the place in terms of their evolution, where they're at technologically.
Right.
So it's probably really easy for a hostile race to just come in and just lay waste if they wanted to.
Well, like
Especially for us, you know, if aliens wanted to come and conquer, we'd be totally screwed. So maybe there are some, and maybe there's some that want to protect us too. Maybe there's some type of, and maybe that's some of the interaction that we have with aliens. Is maybe there's something out there that's protecting us. Maybe there's something out there that wants to hurt us.
I feel like they wouldn't need anything from us. That's why we're still here.
Nothing that we know of.
That we know
That
of.
we know of. In terms of how we think as humans, it's like, why would an alien want to even, like, we're like an anthill to them, you know? But maybe we are more to them too. Maybe it's not as cut and dry as what we might think. You
Yeah.
know.
I know earlier we said the Earth was about 13 billion, but actually that's the universe is 13.5 billion. Is that right? And
Yeah.
and
yeah.
planet
It's
is about
between
4,
13 and 14 billion
and the planet's
years.
about 4 billion. Had correct myself.
I
on
think that you're right. I think
Yeah.
it's something like that.
So, I mean, 13 billion years. It's hard to imagine or to comprehend that there's nothing going on besides us.
Yeah.
You know,
And I
absolutely
think that
nothing.
Brian Cox guy talks about,
Yeah. You should check him out. He's pretty.
I have,
super
yeah, I definitely have seen him before.
Brian Green also, man, I can listen to that guy all day.
I'll have
He's
to look
really,
him up. Don't know if
really smart human
I might
being.
not have heard of him. I'll have to look him up. I probably have seen him,
And
honestly.
since we're speaking about alien war, I feel like if they are as smart as we think they are, I don't think they would go to war, because they would be able to negotiate, talk.
Yeah.
I feel like human beings go to war because of an ego that they have.
Mhm.
You got a guy like Hitler. Oh, I want to rule, all Europe. I want to rule. So that's more of an ego and less educational.
Yeah. And I think that's partially true. I don't think that aliens entirely escape ego.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe it's like what we were saying earlier, is that there's not infighting among them,
Right.
among their race, but
'Cause
maybe there might be something more with another race or something.
So a lot of, if you really see it, a lot of highly intelligent people are more of negotiators than they are violent people.
Yeah.
You got the people that start screaming and talking over everyone
Mm-hmm.
and start going crazy. Well, yeah, you're trying to put your point across, but really you're just looking like a dumbass, just
Yeah.
screaming.
Yeah.
And that's just lack of knowledge of how to talk. How to communicate with another human being.
Definitely.
But as an extraterrestrial, I believe that they have that communication. Be like, oh, okay, you want this? Let's talk about it.
Right.
And I feel that I don't think there would be wars because of it, because they're so highly intelligent. I mean, I can be wrong. They can be like, nah, fuck this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that they've gone beyond like having an issue with communicating
Yeah.
with us. I think that they are able to. I think that we're able to, or they're able to bypass like communication barrier. I think that there's some type of telepathy that they probably have mastered, or that they've just evolved into, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't need to use words and language to communicate. Like they could probably just implant thoughts.
Wow.
And just let you know, like, implant information. Anytime you hear about, and again, a lot of these claims are probably not true, but there's got to be, I feel like, some that are too.
Mm-hmm.
Alien abductions, where people come back with stories about, I was visited, and they implanted this information, and we talked, and they let me know this information, and that this happened, and it's like, how did they do that? It's like, I just looked at them, they looked at me, and I just knew, and this is what they were saying. I could just hear it in my head.
So, do you think the government hides any kind of extraterrestrial because they want war? More because of a human
That
control?
they hide the truth about extraterrestrials because they want war?
Because-
Likely.
'cause
I think that
If you really get into
that's
nuclear
possible.
war, I mean, if let's say that there is any kind of nuclear war right now,
Mm-hmm.
you think aliens would interfere in that? Because it was pretty bad the first time.
Well, there's evidence to support that alien sightings, or not alien sightings, excuse me, but UFO sightings and that type of phenomenon. There was an increase in that when the first bombs were dropped, and when the Cold War was going on, where we were just testing nukes all over the world.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that video where it like shows like a timeline and like kind of like a video that kind of shows how when a bomb, it shows every point in time from this point to this point, and when a bomb was going off, and
yeah.
it was just the globe was just lighting up.
During World War II?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. During World War II and after World War II, specifically, we were in a Cold War with Russia. And they were testing nukes while we were testing nukes, and same with England was testing nukes. Everybody was testing nukes. It was just going off all over the place.
JFK actually talks about that too. He talks about nuclear war and aliens. And
Oh. Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard about that, but he does mention extraterrestrials during that time of period ever, which is
really?
kind of ironic because
I know. I always just hear his like speech with like where there's like the secret government speech that he gives where.
yes.
But the one about aliens, I don't know if I've heard.
Yeah, he does talk about extraterrestrials, but what's ironically, is that he talks about it during that stage of the Cold War, right? He don't talk about it any other time. He talked about going to the moon, but he didn't talk about anything
we
else.
choose to go to the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, maybe that's what these assassinations are also implemented because, I mean, you think about JFK and you say, okay, there's so many different possibilities, like so many.
Yeah. Who knows what's really going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like JFK to me is like, because I love history, is one of the most iconic American figures, not even American, worldwide figure of all time.
yeah.
Just because of the way he died, what he knew,
How he died.
how he
Yeah.
died,
Mhm.
the assassinations between the mob, and then you talk about the CIA trying to assassinate him.
Yeah.
You know, and then you want to say, well, he might extraterrestrials or not. No, he has. He knows.
I think he knew something.
He knew
There
something.
wasn't. I mean, you don't get killed like that
Yeah,
for not knowing
exactly.
something. You know. So
And to be honest, I don't even think Lee Harvey Oswald was actually the only one that killed him. I don't believe it.
no way, dude. No way. And the everything surrounding that is like
That's what I'm
screams
saying.
bull crap.
Yes.
Just because the autopsy, how that went. It was like I think it was like the dude's first autopsy. I don't want to say that for sure, but it was like some amateur guy doing his autopsy.
Yeah, you're
And-
actually correct about that because, well, I don't know if it was an amateur, but it wasn't his people doing it. He had his own medical staff, just for the president itself. But what astonishes me the most about JFK is that one of the bullet wounds in his back, they missed it during the autopsy.
And how do you?
How do you miss that?
Yeah.
Yeah, And that's when they say, well, CIA has to be involved in anything like this. But how can you miss
Something
And then
like
have you heard
that.
of the magic bullet? You know what the magic bullet is?
Yeah, because the way that they say the bullet like went in like so many different places. The way that the way that the government says it happened is like the bullet would have had to like go do so many things.
So the bullet
to
went through his throat and then down into the hip of the passenger in front. I believe it was. I don't know if it was the vice president. No, it was not the vice president. It was. I'd have to look it up to see, but there was someone that got hit on the hip. So you're saying that that bullet went vertical all the way down to the hip, and that's what.
Yeah.
This is in the FBI files. You know. I would have to remember who the guy was, but yeah, JFK wasn't the only one that got assassinated.
Yeah. And there's got to be something to say though too of when a bullet hits something, it might not go straight completely.
Right.
Okay. Something might, it might get like hit some bone and it deflect this way or something like that.
Right.
Exactly what the autopsy shows, I don't know.
I
I haven't looked into it enough to know, but I don't think that there's a real cut and dry explanation, at least.
I don't think there ever will be.
Yeah.
I think the term conspiracy theory was actually created by the CIA after the JFK assassination.
Oh, really?
They started saying conspiracy theory right after that. So there was no such thing as a conspiracy theory until JFK got assassinated,
Interesting.
which is kind of telling me the government's saying, hey, you know what? This is what really happened.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what really happened.
Which, yeah, I mean, and there's been, I feel like conspiracy
But why do you think they would
theories-
want to kill him, the CIA?
Oh,
Why do you think that is?
uh,
I read some books on JFK,
yeah.
and I don't think they were after JFK. I think they were more after his brother, RFK,
Oh,
Robert Kennedy.
well, they got him too. Or no, not or was it? Is it?
Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, and
Because there's another RFK, right?
oh yeah,
Who's
it's like the great grandson, or
Yeah.
he's
yeah.
actually running for office right now as
right
we
now.
speak.
Yeah.
But no, he had ties trying to cut down the mob, and the mob. There's in this book that I read, The Assassination of JFK. It talks about how the mob wanted to kill Robert Kennedy
Really?
because he was a district attorney, I believe, and he was down on the mob. Like he was crushing them down, and that's why the whole thing. You get the mob and Cuba now because they're trying to go to Cuba, right? But they can't do their gambling, operations over there because of the dictator of who Fidel Castro was. But when Robert Kennedy, he actually put a lot of mobsters in prison. They wanted to kill him, but they couldn't. They knew they couldn't kill Robert Kennedy without doing it JFK first, because on the book it said that they don't kill the tail of the dog; they kill the throat.
Oh.
So,
So what is it? So they saw JFK is the throat. Is what
They
you're
saw
saying?
JFK as a throat.
Mm.
That's the main that they needed. And then a year and a half later, they killed him.
So why
It was
wouldn't
perfectly
they?
planned.
Why wouldn't they just kill though Bobby though? If that's who they were really after.
I feel they didn't just kill Bobby because JFK would go right after him. That he would know who it is.
They had to
You know.
kill Bob, or they had to kill JFK
Yeah,
first, so
they
that
have to kill
there would
JFK
not be wouldn't be some type of major retaliation.
Yeah.
Maybe so, yeah. Because, and I don't know the whole family of the Kennedys, and there's the two brothers, obviously, and
And then on top of that, you know, Lee Oswald gets assassinated as well by Rubio.
yeah,
You know, it's like,
it's like the only person that could really like speak about this.
and
gets
Rubio was
killed.
part of the mob as well. So
Yeah.
that's where the mob comes into it, I believe.
Hmm.
I mean, we'll definitely get into that later on.
Yeah.
But
That's one I got to read up on.
Yeah.
Again, you
We'll-
know,
we'll
I know
definitely
there's
get
a
onto
lot
that.
of there's videos out there that go so deep into that and like really bring some crazy stuff to light, from what I've heard. But I'll need to go and like
the thing that gets, I'm sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying I gotta go up and read
Oh,
up
yeah.
on the whole subject matter surrounding his assassination. Both of their assassinations.
Yeah, the thing that gets me the most, there was FBI files that in this book that I read, there was FBI files of the assassination of trying to assassinate Fidel Castro, and it was exactly the same way they assassinated JFK. Like,
Like kind of getting a scapegoat, like
yeah,
some
the
rando,
scapegoat on top
like,
of the building. They even got the similar
Holy crap.
rifle. They got everything the same.
What the F? It's like this worked once.
Yeah, this worked one, but that's oh man, that's mind blowing to me because, again, CIA. Why would they? And maybe I heard that he was trying to get rid of the CIA too. That could have been possible.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into that speech that most famous speech
Yeah.
of JFK's, and how it's like there's like the secret governments and there's secret groups and secrets this and kind of like it almost sounded like he was trying to expose something, and possibly that was what killed him. You know, it's like the thing that didn't want to get exposed. Powers that be, with whoever they are, you know. I feel like private industry's got some pretty powerful, you know, players in there that'll that they kind of control the scene. I feel like private industry.
Yes.
So you know, how does a political figure, you know, get money? You know, it's like they get
all
donate. A
that
lot
is.
of it is the
Donations.
donations from large companies, and they'll give them all this money and say, hey, you know, now you've got to. We scratch your back, you scratch ours. You know, now you got to put in this law and that law, and you know, if you don't, you know, yeah, something bad gonna happen.
Well, we definitely got to get together again, and we'll definitely talk
Absolutely.
about the JFK assassinations.
Yeah.
And oh man, we can talk forever about stuff
Oh
like
man,
this. I mean,
it's been
I
great.
feel like
Yeah.
this podcast was a little sample preview of things that we can talk about later on in the future.
Heck yeah.
Is there anything else you want to bring up before we close this up?
You know, I'm sure I could, but yeah, for the sake of time, I'm sure that we need to get going. You know, we got other things going on in life, so we'll wrap it up for now, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
Thomas, it was awesome. I'm honored that you're the first for the episode. We both got our cherries popped today.
Hell yeah.
We definitely have to do it again.
Definitely.
And I cannot wait.
Cool.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, buddy.